So imagine going from this to this.
Using the right lane, make a right turn on Brook Street.
DJing gave me the opportunity to play to thousands, go viral, travel, do everything that I was really passionate about, and for money as well. However, I built a bunch of bad habits that nearly killed me a couple of times, was in a bunch of toxic relationships where I was literally the problem, and it completely destroyed my social battery, probably forever. Now, all of those experiences, obviously my own responsibility. I know plenty of DJs that are sensible and have taken care of themselves and have had completely different experiences to me. But these are just based off of my own personal experiences, and these are 3 things that I wish I knew before I became a DJ. Hey guys, my name's Brandon. I used to DJ and produce as Wilco. I quit DJing in 2019 to grow my own digital marketing agency, but now I share the lessons that I learned from my time as a young DJ and the mistakes that I made so that you guys don't need to repeat the same mistakes that I made, because some of them were painful. So if that sounds like you, if you're a DJ or producer or you work really heavily in nightlife, consider subscribing so that you don't need to repeat all the dumb mistakes I made in my early 20s. So let's get stuck into it. These are the 3 things that I wish I knew before I became a DJ. So the first thing is that I substantially reset the bar for fun. When I first started out DJing, I would have been happy playing to like a local pub to like a dozen people. Like I literally would have had a blast. At the end of my career, I would literally be miserable if I was playing to like anything less than hundreds of people at like peak time in a really busy nightclub. And even if I was on a night out where I wasn't DJing, it still takes like a substantially more like alcohol or girls or like just stuff going on for me to have a good night out compared to the average person or, who I was before I started DJing and stuff like that. It essentially drained my social battery. I used to be really like extroverted and fun, and I didn't need like alcohol or anything like that to like talk to people. By the time I was like 22 or 23, I was like completely introverted. I would be a total recluse. I literally wouldn't even leave the green room unless I was like completely hammered. For example, I used to be promotions manager at a nightclub, and it became like an ongoing joke that if anyone saw me at the start of the night, they'd ask like, "Oh, like, are you okay?" And someone would say, "He's fine, he's just sober still." Kind of funny, but in retrospect, kind of dark as well. So the more increasingly fun experiences that you have in nightlife, it just shifts the bar every single time. Which ties in really well with my second point, which is the highs aren't as high as the lows are low. So imagine going from this to this.
Using the right lane, make a right turn on Brook Street.
You go from a full room of everyone paying attention to you, crowd control, all the lights and noises and all that stuff, everyone paying attention to you, to sitting in the back of an Uber in dead silence. Like, it's just a complete dopamine crash. The saddest and like most existential moments of my life have been in the backseat of an Uber, leaving a nightclub at like 4 or 5 a.m. Because I'd gone from hours of like headlining a nightclub to just like questioning my entire existence in the back of an Uber at like 5 a.m. leaving Fremantle. I'd post like the most depressing status updates on my Wilco page when I was just like drunk and questioning my life and on the way home after a gig. And that becomes this kind of feedback loop where you need like bigger gigs and then you crash higher, and bigger gigs and you crash harder. And it just keeps going. For me, it did anyway. And the third one is that for me, myself anyway, the attention amplified any insecurities that I had. So this one's kind of complicated, so hopefully I can explain it in a way that you can follow along with me. Now, when you first start a DJ brand, you'll essentially create another version of yourself, and that person that you create can be anyone. They can be cool, they can like be good with girls, they can be funny, they can be like mysterious, whatever it is you want. And so you're naturally gonna create a character that you wish you were yourself. Like, you're not gonna create a brand that is just someone you don't want to be. You're gonna create like the ideal version of everything that you wish you were as a person that you're not right now. And so that gives you a blank check to mask any insecurities that you've had, that you've like developed through high school or whatever life experiences that you've had. And as your following grows, you'll turn up and amplify all of those characteristics about your brand that mask all of those insecurities, because as more people pay attention to you, you'll lean more into that character. But at the end of the day, you can't separate yourself from the brand. You're still the same person. It's not like when you walk off stage, you like snap out of it and all of a sudden you're Brandon and not Wilco. You're still the same person every single day, and you lean more and more into that character the more people pay attention to you and the more your brand builds. So for example, like, girls were a fucking huge part of like my Wilco brand. Like literally like one of my album artworks for like a remix was like an after sex selfie. I had like custom G-strings, there was like strippers all over my Instagram and stuff like that. So in high school, up until about year 11, I was terrible with girls, and I went to a private Catholic all boys school. Funny how that turns out. I didn't know how to talk to them. I didn't have any like friends that were girls. Literally just didn't even know any girls. And in year 11, all of a sudden I like got a girlfriend at another school. And I remember taking her to like a school fair or something like that. And a couple guys like made a comment that like, you know, she was like an attractive looking girl. And this switch went off in my brain and it just like got this dopamine hit got burnt into my brain where I was like, oh, like if you're seen with like good looking girls, you'll get approval from guys. And it just stuck around for like a decade. This like one experience I had when I was like 15 just like molded like the biggest insecurity that I had like into my early 20s. And so that carried on for a decade later and became like a fucking huge part of the Wilco brand. And because I was Wilco, masking that insecurity became like a huge part of who I was instead of just confronting it and dealing with it like a fucking grown up. And in my particular case, that insecurity led to a bunch of relationship issues where I was the problem because I hadn't dealt with those prior insecurities. I'll just mask them for this fucking brand. So anyway, those are the 3 things that I wish I personally knew. Like if I could go back into a time machine to 17-year-old me, those are the things that I'll tell him before he decided to become a DJ. Now, if you are a DJ or a producer or you work heavily in nightlife and you've watched and stuck around for this long, safe bet to say you've found it at least useful, or maybe you're distracted and you're just on your phone. But if it's the first one, consider subscribing so that you don't need to repeat all the dumb mistakes that I made in my early teens and early 20s. So consider subscribing and I'll see you in the next video and have a nice day.